to war against the Muslim people, and that terrorism and Islam are not the same, it is strange that all the countries being targeted are Muslim countries, with absolutely no exception.
Almost all the nations we've bombed in the last 20 years are mostly people of color. Interesting fact. That's U.S. foreign policy. Go bomb and kill people with dark-colored skin.
Little mention of plans to attack Ireland have been proposed. No plans to bomb Irish camps harbouring and training Sinn Féin terrorists. Gerry Adams' face is not on any dead or alive poster. It is also interesting to note that when Sinn Féin terrorist acts occur, the media label them as just Sinn Féin terrorist acts, never as extremist Catholic Christian fanatics. Nor was professed Christian Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma bomber, paraded as a Christian extremist.
Well, it depends what you mean by terror. If you mean any resistance fighter is a terrorist, if the Europeans don't like him. They would call him a resistance fighter if they like him. They would call him even revolutionary if he takes over power. But if they don't like him, they just call him a terrorist.
One of the deeper agendas for the West is one of contagion. Since the fall of the Ottoman Empire, the Muslim world has been fragmented into bickering groups. The only thing that can unite the world's largest practicing religion is an Islamic government. The Islamic government sentiment in the South Asian region since the emergence of the Taliban has been on the increase. British Pakistani Muslims recently called for Pakistan to adopt a similar pan-Islamic government. Afghanistan has started a tradition that has to be nipped in the bud. In no way, shape or form can the Islamic sentiment be allowed to spread to Pakistan. It is interesting to note that Pakistan, unlike any other Muslim-majority nations, is the only one to have nuclear capabilities. So it seems the bigger agenda is, as the Taliban say, beyond bin Laden, with the key objectives being 1. To form a US-friendly and dependent government in Afghanistan, 2. To further control resources of the Gulf and Caspian Seas, 3. To monitor Pakistan's nuclear bases and calm Israeli fears, and to kill the seeds of Islamic rule before they are allowed to grow. We need to question the motives behind some of the countries of the world lending their support to America. Russia, a country once embarrassingly defeated by the Mujahideen. Afghanistan's Northern Alliance, a rogue group of rapists and pirates backed into a 5% pocket of the region, desperately looking for any advantage to defeat the Taliban. China has now jumped on the American bandwagon by equating terrorism to the Islamic separatist movement in the Yingzha province, a people simply seeking a separate autonomy from mainland Chinese rule. Some of the bandits that make up the coalition defy ethical consideration. The American government, like the CIA, has transcended beyond morals and ethics to achieve a desired end. America has signed a Faustian pact, whose consequences will become apparent in the years to come. When this witch hunt ends, America and her allies will have all of its enemies dispatched and neutralized. And so, with one word, terrorism, the 21st century witch hunt, has begun. The Taliban regime before this incident received mixed feelings. Regardless of what is believed of the Taliban, they are clearly not the terrorists that inspired the World Trade Center bombing. They have been drawn into this conflict on a different rope, because of their friendship and loyalty to an ex-soldier of the Afghan-Russian war. They have been singled out because they have no fear in a climate of fire. They have made honor their bond and have not knelt before an insurmountable opposition. They have no fear or respect for America, and thus pose a threat that must be killed before it is allowed to grow. The Taliban, prior to September the 11th, have practiced an isolationist policy which has not been to neither their nor their people's advantage. Politics is something alien to the Taliban rulers. Their no-tolerance policy and hardline tactics have choked practicality. Nonetheless, it is noticeable that in all of the smoke they have stood cool-headed and asked one simple request: give us evidence.
And tonight, the United States of America makes the following demands on the Taliban. Deliver to United States authorities all the leaders of Al-Qaeda who hide in your land.
The world that claims to be defending civilization seems to be the one that should take lessons from these so-called uncivilized militants. Bush claims no negotiation. Why?
These demands are not open to negotiation.
This stance adds credence to the accusations of the Taliban that his war has nothing to do with bin Laden, but is really a war to crush an Islamic government.
If Mr. George Bush is not providing evidence and he is just expressing words in order to pave the way for war and attack in Afghanistan, it means the attack is pre-planned. They have already terrorized the common people. Thousands of people are...
The Taliban have earned the respect of many young revolutionary thinkers throughout the world who see through the Western propaganda mask. Many who previously condemned their extreme Islamic ideology now have great reverence for their bold stance. The Taliban know that the only way Bush can win this war is if they surrender bin Laden and bow. In a climate of fire, they know they must stand firm.
I myself have always criticized the Taliban. I criticize them on their position on women, on the media, on so many things, on enclosing themselves in a cocoon, separating themselves from the world. But today I admire them because they stand to America and to Britain. And they say to them, it is God who changes kingdoms and powers, and not America and Britain.
Peace advocates are applauding the president's speech, but only with one hand.
The UN food agencies are warning that 1 million Afghans face imminent starvation if staff cannot return to the country to distribute food supplies.
Along with Attorney General John Ashcroft's call for roving wiretaps, means that many American citizens could soon be more listened to than Osama bin Laden.
Being an unstable leader who might go off on a tangent, and the US could possibly use excessive aggression in response to the attack, leading to a humanitarian crisis.
Prior to September the 11th, the media via the Hollywood Institute had begun a mental marination process with films such as The Siege and the more dangerous film Rules of Engagement. The aim of the media is to marry Islam to terrorism in a slow ceremony. Misuse of words like Islamicist and Muslim fundamentalist, which are generally benign in nature, are being reverted, hijacked, and associated with the extreme action of a negligible few. The media generally parades two types of Muslims on their screens: the extreme impractical groups with un-Islamic agendas, fueled and engulfed by hate and frustration, and the second group of old, weak, pacified, disillusioned, out-of-touch reactionary and apologetics. They are a sharp misrepresentation of the contemporary intellectual Muslim world. These assimilated and confused people, as opposed to stand up for justice, strip themselves of their honor and beg like dogs for crimes they have not committed. In a malicious attempt to demonize Muslims, footage of Palestinians celebrating in the aftermath of the attack were pumped around the world. This now became the focal point that enraged the world against the Muslim community. The media has used its powerful arm again to control and reroute sympathy. Whatever little sympathy the Palestinian people were receiving from their resistance to the Israeli occupation was now quickly withdrawn. Clearly, these repeating images were circulated with that predominant objective in mind. Rumors emerged later that the footage, several years old, and the celebrations were with regards to Iraq's withdrawal from Kuwait. A more accurate report investigated and found that people celebrating had no knowledge that America had been attacked. This information was conveniently ignored by the major media companies. Once again, the Muslim world was faced with defending itself against crimes it had not committed. In the minds of the unvoiced and oppressed, the tragedy that befell America is a tragedy that has become normal to them. In their minds, America knows how they feel, now that she too has tasted death.